Hi everyone, it's Myriam with a Y. Let's try a fun new technique with alcohol ink and masking fluid. I'm going to call it reverse painting. For this project, our materials and supplies are alcohol inks of your choice. I'll be using Piñata. Grafix opaque white craft plastic. This is important because of the ability of the graphics to clean back down to white. Isopropyl alcohol. I really recommend at least 91% for this. Masking fluid, whatever brand makes you happy. A rolling pen and a paintbrush can help too. I'm hoping you saw the video before this one where I really explored the ruling pen with you. If you haven't seen that video yet or aren't familiar with ruling pens, I'm linking that video for you up at the top now and also putting the link in this video's description box below. Optional for this project are a black fine liner and a fine white Posca paint pen or other paint pen. These are for extra embellishing if you want. An ultra-fine Sharpie works fine for the black too, by the way. And entirely optional for this is an airbrush. And maybe a Lazy Susan or cake spinner just for convenience if you have one. But really, those things are not necessary. Okay, let's play. The first step for this is to make a fairly busy alcohol ink piece. I'm going to call this the base painting. We want that base painting to have lots of small segments with wonderful telltale alcohol ink borders. So more like this or this. And less like this wispy, airy piece where the colors are far apart and there's less border action going on. Now, I'm going to use an airbrush for this, more for fun than anything else, but honestly, you can accomplish something equally effective with paint brushes, a straw, micro brushes, whatever works best for you. Like I said, I'm using Piñata inks, and I've got a few. Each are already thinned with isopropyl alcohol in these little needle tip bottles. I find it easier to work with thinned ink rather than starting with intensely rich ink that is Piñata. My goal as I make this base painting is something colorful, but as I'll explain later, something monotone or with just a couple of colors can be very effective too. I just want to make sure I get a lot of borders and interest in this piece. When making your base painting, you've got a few options. One is to go monotone, or another is to make a full mishmash of colors with an even distribution of color or colors across the entire surface without caring where colors or shades of a color end up. Then you can sort of look at the base painting and let it dictate what image you extract from it based on what it conjures up for you. Or if you know what you'd like your reverse painting to be, you can kind of choose your base painting colors and direct where they end up. That's what I'm doing. I've got an idea of what I want to draw, so I'm placing colors where I would need them for that overall image. This will make sense in a bit if it's not making sense now. I'm liking the border details that I'm getting in this piece, but to make sure that I have a lot of nitty-gritty detail, I'm using a micro brush and a paintbrush now and then to add in some more teeny little segments here and there. I'm also making sure that I have no overly light or white spaces left. I mean, not so much on the border because that I don't care about, but I'm talking about the inner bold area of color. And then after a little more fiddling here and there, alrighty, yeah, I'm happy with this. So now on to the next step, our desired image. For this step, you have the option of lightly drawing right onto your base painting with a pencil if you're comfortable doing that. Or you might have an image and some transfer paper, and that's how you're going to get it onto your base painting. Or another option is using a big open stencil. Not one with little itty bitty segments, but one that has really big open holes. And then use a pencil to stencil that onto your base painting. Now, when doing this step, think in terms of a bold silhouette. Not necessarily one that has elaborate, detailed, sort of fine lines. Some fine lines are okay, but thick, prominent lines and elements are much better for this piece. Like I said, I have an idea of what I want to draw, so I'm penciling that in now. So what I'm drawing now is the image that I want to have survive. If there are any parts in your base painting that you really loved the way the ink worked out, maybe try to incorporate that into your piece by drawing an element right over that, because will be masking that off later, and whatever gets masked will survive. I know this is maybe not making sense now, but I'm telling you, I promise in about a minute it's all going to make sense. So just follow along with me. Just trust me. As you draw your image, you may find areas that need some ink editing or additions of color here and there. This is a good time to do that too. So you might think, oh, you know what? For this element of the image, I'm going to need more blue. So add a little blue or green or whatever color it is that you need. Okay, with the drawing all done, this is where our masking fluid and ruling pen come into play. I've got some fluid in a little silicone cup, and I'm dipping my ruling pen in periodically to load it up with masking fluid. My goal now is to completely cover my drawing with masking fluid. The ruling pen makes it very easy to follow along my line work and fill in decent sized areas before having to reload. Now, I recommend placing some paper under your hand if it will have to rest on your painting. Masking fluid has a hard time going over areas that have any oils on it. I mean, you can do it, but it's really an annoying process. You've got to keep going over it and over it in the same area. Make sure to cover every little itty bitty segment of your image. You might tilt your image or your head now and then, and whatever is necessary to check for spots that you might have missed. It'll be easy to tell because your masking fluid will be really shiny on your piece. And it's better to go over the same spot again with extra masking fluid than to accidentally miss a spot altogether. Now, this is where I have to admit, I kind of find the whole masking fluid experience very satisfying. From applying it to removing it later too. I don't know. Does that make me weird? Tell me in the comments if you get a kick out of this too. Okay, as I do my last check for any missed spots, make sure to click subscribe and the bell for notifications so that you catch more videos like this one as they come out. Now we're going to let this completely dry. You want your masking fluid completely dry before we move on to erasing. For the erasing, I'm going with 99% isopropyl alcohol and letting it wash away everything not covered with my mask. You can let all the background get removed and have a pure white background as a result if you like. That's the advantage of using Grafix opaque white craft plastic as your substrate. Since it virtually doesn't stain, all of your ink not protected will easily wash away and you'll go back down to the white. Or you can do something with a little color if you prefer. I'm letting the majority of the background ink get washed away, but for the look I'm after, I want some of it to remain. My plan here is to make somewhat of a marbled look in the background, but I need it to be light and not too prominent because I don't want it to compete with my flowers and leaves. So for this, what I'm doing is dripping drops of alcohol down the full length of the painting or height of the painting until I'm happy with the results. And periodically I'll turn the painting upside down and let it drip the other way. And by the way, this is not taking up as much alcohol as you might think. At most, I used 10 milliliters of alcohol for this, or about 1/3 of an ounce. This is just drops of alcohol running down the page. And as it runs down, it sort of pulls the color along and forms these really beautiful borders. And every now and then, I add a little color if necessary, if one color is no longer present where I would like some, like a little blue here or a little pink there. Take your time with this and get it exactly as you want, because once you remove the mask later, putting in a marbled background, yeah, it is just not really doable. So if you're going to do the marbled background, this is when you do it, and really keep playing with it until it's just the way you like. Then, once you have everything cleaned off or marbled, let your piece completely dry again. You want no humidity left on your piece before you start rubbing. Okay, and now the fun part, removing the mask. And for that, your finger will do. Just rub it off and reveal the image you had protected. Seriously, this part for me is like being a kid fun. Okay, at least I think so. I admit I might be weird, but I really love doing this part. And then, after some rubbing and rubbing, voila! We have reverse painted. La! And we can stop here, but let's add a little extra, because, you know, that's what we do here a lot on this channel. We don't just leave things, you know, half done. Let's add a little extra. For those final touches, I'm using a black fine liner to outline the left and bottom of any shape here making up part of my image, as if that black line is a shadow and the light source is coming from the upper right of the image. Now remember, an ultra fine point Sharpie will work just fine for this too. So I'm lining the bottom and the left of each section. When that's all done, for a highlight, I'm using a fairly fine white Posca paint pen and outlining just inside of the right and top side of all the shapes, so that it has kind of like a glassy highlight. And then doing this throughout the image will add a little bit of dimension to your piece, I think. You know, a little je ne sais quoi. So you guys, the possibilities are endless with this, and limited only by your imagination and by the images you choose. So have fun with this. Tell me in the comments what you think of my technique. Give it a thumbs up if you liked it. Tell me what ideas you're dreaming up now that you've seen this. And come show off what you make in my Facebook group if you make anything using this. I would love to see it. Links for everything you need to make your own reverse painting are in the description box below. May the inks be kind. May you all be happy and safe as you let your creative nature shine. See you soon. Bye now.